What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Yala Poppy from simphunter.com, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the weaknesses of OnlyFans management as a business model. The reason I'm making this video is because honestly, it's more for myself. I kind of just want to talk out the weaknesses so that maybe it will be easier for me to find a solution. And also, if you're new and you're just getting started and you're having some trouble, maybe this will help you as well. Okay, great. So here we go. The first weakness, number one, as I see it, is too much reliance on black hat marketing. Now, why do I see this as a weakness? Well, let's define what black hat marketing is, right? This is not the official definition. I probably should have looked up the official definition before doing this, but the way that I see black hat marketing is any kind of marketing that is breaking the rules of whatever platform you're doing the marketing on. For example, simple example, technically you're not supposed to have 100 phones to run an Instagram phone farm, for example. Instagram doesn't want you doing that. So that would be considered black hat marketing. Now, that's probably a bad example because as far as black hat marketing tactics go, if you're going to automate on phones or if you're going to actually do stuff on phones, that's very close to real user behavior. So here's a better example. Let's say using an automation tool on your computer that uses the Instagram API to automate actions across 500 accounts, right? You're not supposed to do that. They don't want you doing that. They don't want you connecting with proxies and running all these accounts and posting from the API and like automating all these actions, follow, unfollow, mother slave type shit. They don't want you to do that. That's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to have your one account for your one entity and post, your content that's unique. And that is how they intend for the platform to be used. So, when I say that OnlyFans management relies too heavily on black hat marketing, what I mean is that the current meta of the industry, at least the subset of the industry that's found on Telegram, I call it like the underground OFM community, or, as opposed to like the bigger legit agencies like Unruly and Creators Inc. that just work with celebrities and influencers and don't need to do that kind of thing, or do black hat marketing very lightly just because there's no need, because they get a constant flow of subscribers just because the people that they work with are famous. So what I'm trying to say is that by relying too heavily on black hat marketing, it is a weakness because these methods are always getting patched. They are historically getting more and more difficult. And as soon as one person knows about them, other people eventually find out about them and they eventually kind of stop working or don't work as well. And you can see that it's a trend. It's something that I've seen since I started back in 2022. I mean, it's gotten harder across the board on every single platform. There's not one single platform now that exists that people do OnlyFans marketing on that has gotten easier than it was a year and a half ago. Not a single platform. Part of that is increased competition. Market's getting more saturated, more agencies are popping up. But a big part of it is that all these platforms have started to crack down a lot harder on people who do what we do. So my advice, and I tell my business partner this all the time, and I will tell you as well, my advice to any aspiring agency owners out there is to shift your focus to becoming legit and white hat. That is what I recommend. I highly, highly recommend that you eventually try to phase out most, if not all, of the black hat marketing that you do. Up to you. If you, and I mean, I know that's different than what most people say. I know most people say like, no, you got to do the phone farm, you got to do dating apps, you got to hire people in fucking India to, do shit for you, whatever, like marketing shit. But I think, from what I've seen, a much easier way and it's just more fun to work with, to go the white hat route, right? You can either do it the black hat way, which is like, oh, you're on Telegram all the time. You're like fixing shit that breaks all the time. You have to rely on all these different platforms because not all of them are going to be working the way you want them to work at the same time. It's very time intensive. Or you can just like find a girl who's famous and be like, okay, go post your little, thirst trap and get subs. And that's it. You don't have to do any of this. It's much more liberating. And the potential here, I would argue, is much higher than the potential over here. Given the choice, would you rather be really good at black hat marketing and just be the best at Tinder or the best at whatever? Or would you rather just work with girls who are famous? You know what I'm saying? So like that should be the shift, I would argue. That's the shift that I'm trying to make. And I would encourage you to make that shift as well. The second weakness of OnlyFans management is, and this is kind of the flip side to the point that I just made, is that there is too much reliance on creators to do stuff. That is the main weakness, I would argue, of this business model, is that it's not entirely on us whether or not we succeed. A lot of it depends on the girl. I'm not even saying necessarily talking about her attractiveness, although I do feel that that is a big part of it, and that's something that not a lot of people talk about. When you see people talking in a Telegram group, right? You see somebody post an earnings screenshot, or they say, oh, I scaled this girl to this amount of money, whatever. You have to think, how much of that is because they're just so good at marketing, or how much of that is because the girl they're working with is just a fucking beast and she just works super hard and she's really hot, right? It's usually like these guys are not taking ugly girls, or they're not taking average girls, or they're not taking even like above average girls and scaling them to 60 grand a month. Yeah, okay, fine. Maybe you have some people out there who are just geniuses and can do that. 99 times out of 100, they're taking girls who are super hot, and they are the ones who are, having an easier time growing because they're just much more appealing. Now that's fine, right? That's a given across the board that hotter girls are going to do better. But when it comes to having to rely on creators to do stuff, that can be a problem, right? If you get a custom request for a fan and it's $800 or whatever, you have to wait for the girl to do it. If you are doing traffic on social media and you need X amount of pictures and X amount of videos from her on a regular basis, even if she's a good worker, I mean, people have stuff happen in their lives where they can't create content, where they get depressed, where they're not going to fulfill their end of the bargain. And, it's very hard to rely on them for that. And that's not even taking into consideration things like them running off with the money, which happens from time to time. It happens. Doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter what connection you have with the girl. The 2 times where I've had creators run off with the money, I had a great connection with these girls. I had a great working relationship with them. Made them a lot of money. I was very supportive of their career, their working with us. I gave them everything that I could. And at the end of the day, the way the relationship ended was that they took the final paycheck and fucking ghosted me. And it's just part of the game. It doesn't happen often. It happens much less often than you would think, but it is still something that happens. So having to rely on creators is really, I would argue, like probably the worst part about this business. You can mitigate this kind of with AI a little bit. You can make pictures and you can do deep fake videos, but those generally are very, like, they cost a lot of resources in terms of computing power. So you either have to do it yourself or you have to hire a VA to do it. And it's not something that, I know there's some people out there that teach it. I think Marcus Hustle and Brandon also talk about it a lot, but I haven't found a very good resource on using AI in a streamlined way to do it in bulk, in mass, for lots of creators. If you have something like that, let me know, drop me a comment. Number 3, the third weakness of OFM is that it is very time intensive. Okay, especially when you are starting out, especially if you are going the social media route, especially if you are starting with a new girl. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of stuff you have to do. You got to set up the accounts, and not even really that it's time intensive, but that you are kind of limited in the amount of time, in the amount of actions that you can take in a certain period of time on social media, right? Your actions are limited, I guess is probably a better way of saying it. For example, let's say you post on Instagram. You can't make 10 posts on Instagram in a row on one account. Yeah, you can have 10 accounts, but then you got to make 10 accounts. You got to make the 10 accounts. You got to put the story highlights. You got to whatever, create the posts, make the deep fakes, edit them, whatever. It takes a lot of time to do all that. Now, obviously, you got to spend your time doing something, but the point is that it's going to take a lot of your time. You are going to have to actually do stuff a lot, either with the setup or with the running of the actual accounts themselves. Which is why I think maybe there's a deeper reason for this, but this is why I think it's kind of it's like a joke to me at this point, how like if you do OnlyFans management, then what does your life really look like? You're on the computer all day, every day. That's all you do. It's not very glamorous for most people, which is another reason why I think it would be very, why I'm trying to do this at least is to make the push towards white hat, in person, don't use your computer type shit. Like, imagine you don't have a computer. How are you going to do OnlyFans management? Well, you got to meet these girls in real life, and they have to be famous. So, I mean, would you rather like be on Telegram all day, every day, fucking with Tinder, trying to like reverse engineer their latest update? Or would you rather meet hot influencers in real life and just, milk their posts and do everything from your phone? I don't know. I would rather do that personally. Number 4 is that it can be complicated to move money around. So another weakness of doing OFM is that you run the risk of getting cheated out of your cut by the girl. Now there are so you can set up accounts with an email that you control and, take the money and accept the money and execute the payout. But at the end of the day, the accounts still belong to the girl. They're still her accounts. And if she wants those accounts, she can get those accounts with an email to support. It's very simple. Reset the email, and that's all there is to it. Most recent issue that I had was with a creator that we have on a platform that only has one method of paying out, which is a bank transfer. And she's in a country that is not easy for us to set up a bank account. It's like, what are you going to set up a bank account, in her name that we control in fucking Portugal or like whatever? Like, it's not going to happen, I mean, I guess it could happen if we really cared that much. If we really wanted to do it, maybe we should. But it's not like we have 100 models in Portugal. We have one. So time to value was not good. And anyway, long story short, this specific creator, she had an issue that I knew about from the beginning when I signed her, and I knew that it was going to be a problem. Not that I knew that it was going to be a problem, but it was a sign. Well, I'll just tell you what it is. This creator has one of those chronic undiagnosed illnesses. Okay, now I personally think these are just bullshit. I think they're fake. They're like attention. They're cries for attention, victimhood nonsense. Like, I didn't believe her for a second, but she did, and she was very nice. So I was like, okay. She's like, oh, I have my illness. She calls it my disease. I have my disease. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, don't worry. We'll get you your treatment. Like, we'll make it so you can afford your hospital bills and all this shit. So apparently she thought that meant that it was okay that she takes payments whenever she wants. And if she can't pay us the cut that we are owed, that like, oh, I'm so sorry. I had to go to the hospital. I'd spent all the money. Well, too fucking bad. That's our money that you're spending. So long story short, it happened once, and I came down on her very hard. I was like, this is unacceptable. You don't do this. But she was very easy to work with. She was a pleasure to work with. She was so sweet. And she did what we asked her to do on time, which was also very good. but she fucking spent our money. So like, it doesn't work like that. You don't get to do that. I don't care how nice you are or how like quickly you send us your little videos. So the point is that it happened once. I gave her like a payment plan, which she, executed quickly. But then it happened again. And the second time it happened for a much higher amount. I mean, it was fucking $3.5 grand, but still, that's $3.5 grand. It's sizable enough that like, it makes you worry. Turned into 3.5, then it turned into 5 because we kept working on her account with the payment plan. She never paid us. She stopped responding to our messages. And then that was it. We said goodbye. $5,000 mistake, but what can you do? Anyway, this would all be avoided in another business model. Like, for example, I recently started selling OFM courses. Now, this is not a course that I am trying to market to you, viewer of my channel, who has been watching this video for 15 minutes, because if you've watched 15 minutes of this video, you probably already know who I am. You probably already know all the shit in the course, and like, it probably wouldn't be of much value to you. This is a course for normies. It's a course for beginners, and it's very cheap. It's $7. But it is, if I sell that course, I get the money. I don't have to bill somebody or invoice somebody. Like, somebody buys it, it comes straight to me, period, end of story. So it's not like this in other businesses, and it's a problem. Number 5, the fifth weakness of OnlyFans management is that it can sometimes be challenging to recruit good models. Now, admittedly, this is not a challenge that I face anymore, or really ever, to be honest with you. Like, it's always been easy for me relative to chatting and traffic. Recruiting has always been very easy for me. And I think that's also the case with other people as well. Like, when I started, I went on sexyjobs.com and I fucking sent out 150 messages a day. I was doing 3 Zoom calls a day from that. And I was booked up very quick. And I was recruiting for camming, which is 10 times harder than OnlyFans management. Maybe I'll do that again. Why not? Although most of the girls on there are fucking crackheads, so I don't know if I would recommend that. But even on Instagram, it's not hard to get interested leads if you have a good Instagram page. Your page looks good. You have some testimonials on there. It looks professional. It looks well put together. You have a good opening message that is properly formatted. You have an attractive offer. Your website looks good. If that is all set up properly and you're sending out a high volume of messages, then you are going to get responses. You are going to get people who respond and are interested in working with you, that you can then work those leads and then you can reel them in. However, I know that it is challenging for some people to recruit. You can look at model marketplaces, you can look at running ads, but the challenge when it comes to recruiting, the challenge goes back to the second point that I made, which is that you have to rely on these girls to do stuff. You have to rely on them to respond to your message, to make it to the Zoom call, to fulfill their end of the bargain. They're not working 12 hours a day. They're not. The hardest working girl out there is not working 12 hours a day like we are. So, you're limited by the creators that you work with. You're limited by them a lot more than you think. I don't care how good you are at Tinder. I don't care how good you are at all the black hat shit, how good you are at chatting. It doesn't matter. You are ultimately limited by the amount of content that she can provide to you and how frequently she can provide that content to you. Cool. So those are what I perceive to be the 5 weaknesses of OFM. Let me know what you think about that. Like the video, comment, subscribe if you have not subscribed already, and I will see you